Hello everybody, if it's wet. Stay off of Wednesday or I'ma cut you. Vince. Hello everybody, today I want to show you how to make a magnetized carrying case for your models. I've recently had the pleasure of joining the PMP, that's the Painters Motivating Painters, which I will link in the description, group, and they're the nicest group of people, and they are, painting models to a much higher standard than I am personally capable of, frankly. But I wanted to show you guys how to make a cheap carry case for your models that is magnetized so they won't get damaged, not even on the foam, not even, pretty much no matter what happens. There's no guarantee, but it's a really cheap and easy way of doing it. And I just bought the materials really cheap on Amazon. This is actually a camera case that I bought for $20 Canadian, which is like 80 cents American or something. And it's magnetized. And I did the top and the bottom, and you can shake it, and they don't come off. And it's a really cheap and easy way of making it. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. So basically what I'm going to show you now is the materials you need and how to go about accomplishing this very simple task of putting this thing together. So you need a case that you want to use. I like the double-sided camera cases, so that's the one I bought. This one was a little more because the other, the newer model that I want to use is too high for the other case that I've got over here. So I bought one that was bigger, and this one is 8 inches high, so it will accommodate some of the other models that like like Bone Ripper and Thankful and such like that. So what you want to do is you want to buy a case like this, and then if it has foam like this, you want to rip it out. You can see I've already ripped it out. And then you're going to want to measure the inside, and so you're going to need a tape measure, you're going to need clippers, you're going to need as much flashing that to cover both sides if you want to do that. I suggest taking some kind of magnet in to make sure that the material that you're going to be gluing on is magnetized, otherwise you're doing this whole thing for nothing. And then you want to measure it out inside, measure it out on here, and use your clippers to cut it out. And then you're going to glue it on. Now you can use pretty much anything. If you're cutting it to the right dimensions, the friction on the outside will you'll find it'll actually hold it on almost by itself. So you don't need something really strong. I found personally, I used a glue gun, a hot glue gun on the first case that I've used, and it isn't coming off at all. But you could use wood glue, and if you really want something as strong as possible, I would obviously suggest a 2-part epoxy, which is a little more expensive, but hey, you're saving like $70 on this case when it comes down to it anyway, even if you do use this stuff. So it's probably worth the investment if you wanted to make it as strong as possible. So then we're gonna cut it out, and then we're going to sand down the side that we're going to be gluing on just to help keep it on there as much as possible. The only thing I would caution you on is when you're cutting it out, the thing that they ever told me is I was trying to cut it using like scissors, and I got this really jagged line. So when you're cutting it, you want to slip this side under like that and just cut it the way it's designed to be cut. A little tip from me that I didn't know about. But yeah, so I'm going to cut this out, and then I'm just going to show you the gluing on process afterwards. Just a note of caution, while you're cutting it, you're probably going to want to measure the outside edges and just have it barely big enough, and then cut it down little by little. Now this is a killer on the forearms, but at the end of the day, you want it to just barely fit in there. And then once you think you're probably done, or while you're going along, you're going to want to just kind of stick it in there every now and again and just see if it fits. And see how that barely fits? So that way it takes less friction to hold it in. And a side note, for when you can't get it back out, most of you guys have one of these. You can just stick it in the corner and then use it to kind of pull it out. And also, the edges are very, very sharp, so you're going to want to be careful, and you're going to want to keep your kids away from this entire area because this stuff will cut anybody. So then after you have made sure that it fits in there, you're going to want to take the side that you drew the lines on, the not as pretty side, and you're going to take a really rough sandpaper or sanding pad, and you're going to want to just sand it down and get some nice grooves and make as good a adhesion surface as you possibly can. So lastly, before you glue it on, after you're done sanding, you're going to get a lot of dust, and that doesn't help adhesion at all. So you're going to want to take a wet paper towel or something like that. And you can vacuum it first if you want, but this really just gets everything in one go, I feel. And wipe it down really well to get all that crud off. So lastly, what I'm doing is I'm just taking a dry paper towel and rubbing it down to make sure that there's no water that will ruin the adhesion. It's sharp. Okay, so lastly, we're just gonna glue the case. And what we're going to do is we're going to pump as fast as possible, if you're using a glue gun, around the outside. I did not plan this out very well, did I? Because now I need a whole other thing of glue in a second here. Smells like burning.
Oh, burning.
Whew. I'm gonna have to take a rest before I do the second one. And we just slide that in there. Watch your fingers. Push it down as hard as you can. And then you're going to, at the end, want to put something heavy on top. Can you cut it, hon? If you want to get an extra layer of protection for both yourself and the models, what you can do is you can add a bead of hot glue around the edge. Don't touch it, of course, because it's hot. But what it'll do is it'll protect the edges that are rather sharp from getting at the bases of your models, and will also prevent any burrs from getting you while you are touching it. There you have it, a magnetized carry case for your models. This is the double-sided version that I use for taking to and from my games with my friends. But if you wanted something for showpieces, you could magnetize something like a toolbox, which would add an extra layer of height to it. And if you're only doing the bottom, it'll always stay on the right side down, and you don't have to worry about it getting flipped around and tossed about too much. If you like the video, please like it and subscribe. If you want to listen to something while you're painting, perhaps, I've got my podcast up there. It's a podcast novel. Feel free to listen to it. And if you're wondering what's wrong with my hair, I suggest you read Naomi Novik's Uprooted. It's being corrupted.